is the 3-year average. So in red is the current year through last summer to current. In blue is the 3-year average. And what you can see is this year started more or less in line with this blue line. But then by the end of the year, there's way more deaths. On the bottom, we have the excess in terms of percentage excess over the baseline. So the percentage that the red line is above the blue line. In February of 2022, it was plus 10% over the 3-year average. In March of 2022, it was plus 23.3%. For April, it's up 17%. For May, it's up 17.1%. And for June, the total deaths are up 20.8%. And again, we're seeing this big die-off ever since December, with a little bit of let-up in January and February. But otherwise, it's up at like 20% in excess of the baseline. All right, we're getting more really concerning death data, this time out of New Zealand. We're seeing huge surges in the deaths versus the 3-year average, 2016 to 2019. So I simplified the chart here. We'll do a deep dive in a second, but what we can see is the baseline in blue. That's the 3-year average from 2016 to 2019. And then above it in red, you can see from 2021 to 2022. So this is the second half of 2021 and the first half of 2022 in red. And at the bottom of the page, you can see the excess over the baseline as far as a percentage increase or decrease in 2 of the months. But what we see, especially recently, is huge excess deaths above this 3-year average baseline. And here are the recent percentage increases over the baseline. In February of 2022, it was plus 10% over the 3-year average. In March of 2022, it was plus 23.3%. For April, it's up 17%. For May, it's up 17.1%. And for June, the total deaths are up 20.8%. So that's a 23.3% increase in March 2022 over the March averages from 2016 to 2019. So these are very concerning numbers. Plus 23.3% for March, plus 20.8% in June. So again, going back to this chart, these are the deaths over the baseline as a percentage increase from that 3-year average. And what we're seeing is extremely troubling. Another example of a country with a mass die-off underway. And it seems like a bulk of the unexpected mass die-off is in the older ages. For 60 plus, we're seeing more and more deaths above and beyond the baseline. So a lot of these concerning death trends are happening mostly in the 60 plus age bracket. And that's what we're seeing on this page. So you can see here in March, for 60 plus in New Zealand, deaths were up 26% over the 3-year average from 2016 to 2019. So I want to give a shout out to where I found this. This is on BitChute. New Zealand all-cause deaths to June 30th, 2022, published by Ted B. I'm not sure if that's who did the original analysis. And there's some really good data in here in chart format. I'll link to it down below. I transcribed all these numbers in this table. And then I went and verified that these numbers did in fact come from the government website. That's linked below the video from Ted's channel. So I went and verified this data. This is on the New Zealand Stats website, government website. I'll link it down below. Births and deaths year ended June 2022. So I'm not sure why they say births here. I didn't see any birth data in this spreadsheet. So here's where you download it. You can see it says here monthly death registrations. And it breaks it down by ethnicity, age, and sex. And it's got 12 years of data. So I imported it into my spreadsheet here, and what I quickly found is that they have total and then the breakdowns. So I first summed it up and it looked like there was twice as many. Then I realized I was double dipping. So of course I really just honed in on the total, and I was able to confirm more or less that this data is correct. So I went through and I did some spot checking on this data. It looks like it's about correct. It looks like this was a snapshot from a few days ago. And some of the cells have maybe 6 to 10 more deaths that have trickled in, I think. Keep that in mind that a few more deaths have trickled in. But an extremely concerning trend where more and more people are dying, especially in 2022. So I took the spreadsheet from the video and I transcribed it into my own spreadsheet so I could play with the figures. So I graphed it in a couple different fashions. We'll talk about that in a second. I also calculated the percentage increase of the latest year, 21/22, above and beyond the 3-year average from 16 to 19. Let's first look at this data. What we have up here are the months. You can see it starts in the summer and then it goes into the next year. So keep in mind, for example, when it says 2016/2017, that means over on the left here, this is July of 2016 with 2,778 total all-cause deaths. And then over on the right, this is June of 2017, with a total of 3,012 all-cause deaths. We also have the totals over here. You can see a big jump in the current year. So you can see in this last year of data, there's already 3,500 more deaths over the baseline. But what's really concerning is in these last few months, we're seeing a big increase in the number of total deaths. So let's look at this chart. This is deaths for 3 years, 2019/2020, 2020/2021, and 2021/2022 are blue, red, and yellow respectively. And then the green is our baseline. So that's the 3 years before that, averaged. So I know there's a lot of data going on here, but look at the yellow line and look at the green line. The yellow line is the current year up until June of 2022. And the green is the 3-year average from the summer of 16 to the summer of 19. And what we see here is a divergence, where it looks like yellow is just a little on top of the green. Everything changes February, and we see a big divergence, where we're unfortunately seeing many more deaths than we saw in prior years. And this trend isn't something that we saw in 2020, 2021, or in 2019, 2020. Those were more or less in line with the baseline. So why is it that this year we're starting to see a huge explosion in deaths? And that's a big divergence there. That's what this chart looks at. This is the percentage increase over the 16 to 19 baseline. So percentage increase, and if it's below 0, it's a decrease. So that's good news if it's below 0. Unfortunately, this chart has a lot of bad news. Look at these excess percent increases. Look at all this excess death. Look at these percentages of increased death. And look at the trend. These last few months have been horrible for humanity, for New Zealanders. March plus 23.3%. April plus 17%. May plus 17%. June plus 21%. March plus 23.3%. April plus 17%. May plus 17.1%. June, the deaths are up 20.8% over the 3-year average baseline from the summer of 16 to the summer of 19. So what's causing the mass die-off? Could it be the concerted effort to depopulate the world being executed